Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for how helping your donors can help you. If this is your first time with us, Turnkey tries to bring you information that can help you and your organization be more successful. Today, in these difficult times of the coronavirus and COVID-19, we are talking about something that we know is very concerning to nonprofits. In fact, it is part 2 of our series on what to do when it's crass to fundraise. You may have joined us last week for the first installment, where Otis spoke about donor-centric messaging. This week, we have Professor Jen Shang here with us to more fully explain how helping your donors can help you. But before I introduce Otis and Jen, just a few housekeeping items. We are recording this webinar and we will share it with you. We will also share the PowerPoint deck with you. This will be in an email tomorrow to everybody who registered. So you don't have to worry about taking notes, you don't have to worry about screenshotting, you don't have to worry about anything. We're going to be sharing all of these resources with you after the webinar. Also, we want this to be a discussion. We're going to be answering all of your questions. The best way to ask questions is with the Q&A icon that should be either at the top or the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you go ahead and put your questions in there, we'll either answer them as we go or at the end of the presentation during a Q&A section. So our panelists, first we have Otis Fulton, who is the Vice President of Psychological Strategy at Turnkey. He speaks regularly on the psychology of fundraising at national conferences. He also writes a weekly blog on psychology and fundraising for Nonprofit Pro and is the co-author of the 2017 book, Dollar Dash, The Behavioral Economics of Peer-to-Peer Fundraising. Otis has degrees in social psychology from Virginia Commonwealth University and the University of Virginia. And our special guest today is Professor Jen Shang, who is the co-founder and co-director of the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy. She is the world's first PhD in philanthropy. She is also the world's only philanthropic psychologist. Her research has been covered in the New York Times, the BBC, The Guardian, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, Advancing Philanthropy, and the Nonprofit Times. Jen has been published in numerous academic journals, including the Journal of Marketing Research, Marketing Science, the Economic Journal, Experimental Economics, Organizational Behavior and Human Decision Processes, Nonprofit and Voluntary Sector Quarterly, and Nonprofit Management and Leadership. Her research has been funded by the Society of Judgment and Decision Making, the National Science Foundation, the Aspen Institute, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the Association of Fundraising Professionals, and the Hewlett Foundation. And so I'm going to turn it over to Otis to tell us a little bit more about Jen.
You can tell by Jen's introduction how excited I am to have her here. You know, I discovered Dr. Jen Shang's work last year while I was doing research for my doctoral dissertation. And I was so excited by her ideas because they're completely consistent with what social psychology tells us about what really motivates people and supporters. And it was also completely in sync with Turnkey's philosophy. And today the Institute of Sustainable Philanthropy is a research partner of Turnkey. Now, I just want to stress that everything Jen talks about today with regard to donors, we feel is completely consistent with volunteer fundraisers as well. I know we've got people here who are concerned about their P2P programs and so forth. And, you know, we were talking the other day in a webinar about how things are going to change forever because of the crisis. One of the things that I truly hope changes is that her approach is adopted by fundraisers across the board, because these are practices that are going to help us raise more money and at the same time make our supporters much more satisfied because they're supporting us. So Jen, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Otis. Thank you for all the exciting introduction. I am now speaking from the northern part of England. We typically are in the southern part of England, and we decided before the lockdown, we're going to take one last trip to breathe. But I also want to say a word about Turnkey and Katrina and about our partnership. I actually read their 2017 book on peer-to-peer fundraising, and I absolutely loved it. And I love it to the point that I rang up Katrina and said, I think I just found a sister in fundraising. And she said, calm down, Jen, just calm down. I think you have just found a mother, not a sister. So if you're like me, I hope you find a family with Turnkey and in our partnership with the Institute too, because guess what? I have found my sister, or Katrina's, in Katrina's eyes, her daughter. So, okay, with that introduction, I would like to welcome you, and I hope you all feel like a good Monday, despite of what everybody else is telling you about the crisis. But I would just have 3 slides to remind you where we are, but then the rest of it will be much, much better. Where are we today? Well, we are told that we are to stay home, and I do hope that you're all at home and safe and well, and nobody is infected and need to be tested. But we are told to stay home. We're told that there might be a lockdown. And we're also told we need to be distancing ourselves in every possible way with 2 meters apart from each other. So now how do we think that we feel about it all today on a Monday, about 10 a.m. for you, about 2 p.m. for me, alone in my house with nobody else? Well, it is possible we feel the same way that our peer-to-peer fundraisers feel. We feel the same way as our donors. We just feel as people, and as people, I don't know about you, I have moments where I don't feel so good. And if I don't feel so good, I'm guessing for the people, especially above 70, the profile of most of our donors, when they're ordered to stay home, they could feel, they could feel scared, they could feel feared, they could feel isolated. But when we think about them, it might be better that we don't ask the question, how do we think our donors feel? It might be better that we forget that they're donors, they're peer-to-peer fundraisers, we're researchers, we're consultants. We just ask, how do our people feel? They could feel paralyzed. They could feel confined. They could feel powerless. And they could feel angry about it all. That's how I feel sometimes, but not always. Now, the question that we ask ourselves, and I ask myself, is there anything that we can do? Is there anything at all that we can do so that people can feel that they're listened to, that they're cared for, that they feel connected, and not only connected, comforted and connected in the current crisis? And if there's anything that I learned in the last 25 years in doing research with people who support charities, we know that we charity workers have the power to help our people to feel these ways through how we talk to them, how we communicate to them, how we write to them. We can make them feel listened to, cared for, connected, and comforted. No matter how bad the virus seems to be. Because this is exactly how we, charity people, will make sure that our people will feel. And this is why we worked over the weekend with Turnkey to put this presentation together for you, because we believe in the data that we stand, that you can make you people feel this way in how you talk to them and what you talk to them. That is what charity stands for. We build a community that shields people from anything. Not only shield, actually. We build a community of strength, a community of comfort, a community of togetherness. We want to make sure that this community that we build, people will remember for the rest of their lives. So it's not just ordinary charity communications. It's something that a community can remember. Before we finish our presentation today, I would like every one of you to put your hand on your heart and say, during the COVID-19 organization, you have made your donors feel that they can say, my organization family remembered me and did their very best to help me through. I'll let that sink in for a minute. I don't know if you're standing or if you're sitting. I am standing and giving the presentation because I feel more energized when I stand, and I try to not to move because that would be my tendency walking around when giving the presentation. But if you're standing, if you're sitting, I want you to soak in. What can you do in the next few weeks that will make your supporters, make your peer-to-peer fundraisers, make you donors, make the people that you have vowed your life to serve in however many years that you have served them to feel when they come out of this, they're going to come out stronger as a community. Your community, the community that you build for them in the next few weeks. That's what we're here for. Build that community. Are you ready? Are you ready to build that community, that family for your people? It is not about donors. It's not about supporters. It's not about fundraisers. It's not about volunteers. It's not about campaigners. It's not about other people. It's about us. It's about our people, your people, the community that you build people around you. And the good news is what my research have convinced us is that if that's what you're ready to do, you're ready to double, triple, quadruple your income for the months to come. I don't want to promise you things that I don't have data for. So I'm going to show you the percentage of increase that you can get by having simple thank yous with no asks whatsoever in them. Just thank them, just hug them, just kiss them, just send your thoughts to them when they're confined in their homes and can't go anywhere. Just overwhelm them with the fact that they actually have a community out there who care about them. And not only you'll be able to solve this problem that you face every single day, which is you lose 70% of newly acquired donors between their first and second donation, 30 years year on and year thereafter, and their lifetime value is contracting, and most organizations cost more money to acquire new donors. These are the problems that we face anyway. It's not new problems that we face because we somehow have a crisis. We have them. And now we might feel like we have an even worse problem, but that is exactly the right time that we can beat it. Beat the high attrition on the head. Because guess what? If you have never dared to mail your mid-donor file, if you have never dared to email your lapsed donor file, if you have never dared to touch your regular givers, sustainer givers, monthly givers, regular givers, whoever give you money that don't want to be reminded that they have given you money, email them. Tell them you remember them, all the good that they have done over all these years for you, and thank them during this crisis and make them feel good about everything that they have done.
Hey, Jen, one thing that we talk about is we focus on acquisition and retention so much, but now is not the time to worry about acquisition. Now is the time to worry about retention, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the time to tell people how absolutely brilliant they have been over the years with you, for you. And now is the time for you to be there for them, for you to remember, for you to thank, for you to use the gentlest approach, but on the hardest evidence. And I'm going to show you what the evidence is. But it is not because the evidence is hard that we want to tell you to go out and approach people and ask for unlimited amount of money and send things more often. It's for you to really come down, reflect, what is the thing that you donors, you supporters, you fundraisers want to hear at this moment when they stay home alone? In peacetime, in most of our research, we ask these questions in this order. How can we raise more money? How can we make donors feel better about giving more? Every single one of our research asks those two questions. Now, we're not in peacetime, at least I don't think we are. I think in wartime, we ask these two questions in this order. how can we make people feel better, period. And then trust that we will raise more money. And we don't build our trust on our opinions. We build our trust on data that we have seen in peacetime. We have 25 years of research telling us what makes people feel good in giving. So let's amplify, maximize that good feeling in this wartime for our people. Most recently, we use longitudinal studies to collect evidence on this, and they run structural equation model after structural equation model after structural equation model after structural equation model to study how to make people feel better in different organizational contexts. In wartime, we believe if you ask the right question, we know from research that money will follow. So you don't have to be scared by asking the right question, which is how can we make our people feel better, period, in this time? That is the right question to ask. So you don't need to keep your focus on the money. Focus on how you help your people feel better. Let me show you some examples. Actually, I'll give you a moment to think about that before I show you examples. I'm telling you, not that you do not keep your focus on the money, it's that you don't need to. Because you focus on how to help your people feel better, money will follow.
Jen, and I think that that's so important too. You know, I got an email solicitation from a cancer organization that I'm a subscriber to. I'm a donor to, and it didn't mention the virus. It didn't mention the current situation, and it seemed just so jarringly out of place, so jarringly tone deaf.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is the time where we just need to know how our people feel and what they need to hear, not what the organizations need. So maybe half of you hate me already, and the other half will hold your breath and listen to the evidence. But for the half who hate me and who think that I don't know your reality, who think that how can she possibly dare say that I don't need to focus on money? I am telling you, you don't need to focus on money. And let me show you examples why I say that. This is a UK sea rescue organization. Okay, in the UK, our Coast Guard is not funded by the government. It's all volunteer supported. So our sea rescue organization rely on their donors to be able to function and to save people out of the freezing waves of the England Sea or the UK Sea, or however you say it. Now, 7 weeks ago, I went to this organization for the first meeting. And in that meeting, I presented our research in how to thank you donors. Within a week, they've revamped their thank you process. Look, this is a national organization with 30 copywriters, okay? In a week, they've got this done. They've got things sent out. Like in about 2 weeks, I've already had people sending their thank you newsletters, emails, posters out to me and say, wow, what happened to this organization? They seem to be thanking me a lot. It's like 2 weeks, okay? And then they decided that they want to get to know their donors better. So we did a 7-question survey with them. Only 7 questions. I'm sharing the 2 with you today. You can copy and paste the exact question if you wanted to. So here they are. What are the top 5 words that come to mind when you describe yourself? And what are the top 5 words that come to mind when you describe yourself as a supporter? And obviously, if you want to do this during this crisis, other crisis-related questions will be added, which we did in the other survey we did. But think about these 2 questions. The top 5 words that come to mind when you describe yourself. And the top 5 words that come to mind when you describe yourself as a supporter. Now, For the people from this organization, when you ask them to describe themselves, these are the words that come to mind. And if you stare at the biggest word, what you see is old, tired, caring people. Yes, they are old and they're retired, but they're caring, generous, thoughtful, kind, loyal. That's the way they are. That's who they are. Yes, they're also friendly, happy, active, honest, family-oriented. That's who they are. Those are the central things that come out as really high frequency words. What about if you ask them to describe themselves as a supporter? Not those words. That's the first thing you see. But if you look at those high frequency words right there, proud, admiration, grateful, supportive, brave, committed, concerned. All right, soak into these two lists, have a feel for these people. Who are their supporters? Old, retired, caring, generous, thoughtful, elderly. But they're also kind and loyal. Those are the words people use themselves to describe themselves. That's how they think of themselves. But when it comes to supporting the organization, they're proud, they're grateful, they're committed, they're brave. They support something that is out of the ordinary. Their kindness and their caring can be expressed in such a way that make them live a life that they want to live, but have no other ways of living but to give to this organization. That's giving. That's what giving meant to them. What do giving meant to your people? Why are you so special in your people's lives? What can they do for all those people who suffer from heart disease, kidney disease, ASL, all kinds of diseases that they can't do unless they help you? Look at their homepage during this crisis. That's what they say. You are part of our crew. And crew members look out for each other. And this is the special thank you that they have for them. This is a family. This is the family that look out for each other. This is a family who cared. This is a family that is not satisfied only taking donors' money. This is a family who care enough to let the donors speak in their own terms. They didn't limit what people can put in. Put whatever you want to say, and we will listen. You put old, you put retired, that's the words you want to use. We listen. And if you want to tell us that bravery is what you want to be, proud is how you feel, we listen. And guess what? We take you exactly the way that you want to be taken. You are just like our crew. You are our crew. And we love you because we're the same. We look out for each other. And think about it. What that might feel for someone sitting in their couch, confined in their rooms, being ordered, especially if they're over 70, not to go outside, even for shopping. And when people deliver for them, they can't touch the delivery person. Think about them. And these are the people who have given to this organization day in and day out and year out, supporting them, going out into that freaking cold sea and rescue people from the storm in this time. Aren't they deserving to be called our crew? And that's what we need to call them. They are our family. They have been there for years for us. The least we can do is to thank them on our homepage in the best way possible.
And Jen, we have a video that they produced that is absolutely knocks it out of the park. Why don't you stop sharing? I'll share that right now with everybody.
Absolutely.
No, you actually just stop sharing. Okay.
Yeah, I stopped.
Here is their homepage.
Hi there, my name's Dave, and I'm a volunteer crew member. When we answer the call for help, it's an uncertain time. We don't know what we'll face, and we don't know when we'll see our loved ones again. But the thing that keeps us going is your support. And now, wherever you are, you're probably feeling uncertain about the future too. That's why I wanted to get in touch and say, today, we're sending our support to you. Because you're part of the crew, and crew members look out for each other. So on behalf of the Lifesavers, thank you so much for thinking of us in the past. Right now, we're thinking of you too. We hope you're able to stay safe and well. From everyone at the Iron Line, take care.
And if you're wondering, what do I say to my supporters now? That's what you say. Just can't do it any better than that. Now we have to start sharing again. This is always the tricky part. Jen, you said something very interesting. You know, I actually tried, it seems like a lifetime ago, but 3 weeks ago, I was in Scotland taking a 3-day course from Jen in the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy in this topic. And you said something very interesting. You said, you call themselves into who they are and the behavior will follow. So what you're saying is when you call themselves into being a brave person, into being all those things that they want to be through the organization, then their behavior, their support will follow, yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we do this without any asks. We don't have to have asks in them. And you might wonder, will they give us money later? Look, we are not asked to help them track whether they get more money or not. We are asked to help them understand their donors. You have to have that attitude. You just care for your donors because you care about them. And if you have to convince your boss, not yourself, that it's worth caring for your donors because they have to keep the bottom line, here's the data. With Planned Parenthood.
Hey Jen, but you know, before we get into that, we do have a question that's kind of timely here.
Yeah.
Angela says, what's the ideal criteria when pulling a list to reach out to our donors? The ideal criteria when pulling a list to reach out to our donors, I think you were talking about now's the time to talk to the lapsed donors, the mid-level donors.
Every last person. Okay. Every last person, this is the time to let them know that you're thinking of them. Everybody on your database. This is not the time to discriminate. It's just they're in crisis, you're in crisis. If they have done the slightest good for you, you remember them. That's the recommendation, that's the line we hold these days.
Great.
I can show you the different categories of people that we tested so you feel more secure in using this approach. Any other questions?
Nope, not right now. Okay,
so for Planned Parenthood, to address the question of who are the people that we tested this approach on people who have taken the first action for an organization before they even make their first gift. This experiment I'm showing you are the people who have made their first gift. And in the US, you all know after people make their first gift, they get their thank you email immediately, they get their thank you package, they get their welcome package. That's all happening in the short period where people have made their first gift. When this thank you letter is sent out, it's 11 months after that first gift. So after people get all the typical thank you and welcome stuff, they get the money, they get the thank you. And then 1 month after the thank you, they make the ask. So here, half of the people get this thank you letter, the other half didn't get the thank you letter a month before the next solicitation. It was asked to say, the letter said, thank you for taking the time to read this letter. I often write to you and ask for a gift, not today. Today, I want to tell you that you are the real gift. Today, I want to thank you for changing lives. Your past support of Planned Parenthood changed Lauren's life. And then there's a little paragraph of how Lauren found herself with this help. And then it goes on with 2 more little paragraphs like this, thanking people. And then it's a 1.5 page thank you letter with no asks in them whatsoever. This report, by the way, is freely available online. You can download it. The whole letter is in there. You can cut, paste, adapt it to COVID-19's language.
Yeah, and this letter would be perfectly appropriate for the current environment, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. You just change it to today is our time to thank you. Have them note. It's exactly the same number and the proportion of people responded. But in this condition where they receive the thank you letter, people give 67% higher gift than the people who didn't get the thank you letter. So I come back to the same message. You do not need to know this evidence exists before you send out. You care for your donors' emails, letters, or surveys, or whatever you want to send out. You send them out because you care about them. But you know with this evidence, your bottom line is safe. It's safer than if you don't send them. I'll let you read.
Is that how you spell the virus over in Great Britain? Or is that some kind of?
Yep, that's how I feel about it. All right. And now, not all organizations should do things exactly the same way, and not all supporters necessarily should be talked to in exactly the same way. The key here is you must be genuine and authentic. If you know your supporters are genuinely different in some ways, you need to change your message. If you know that your supporters are different from other organizations' supporters, you need to change them according to your people. This is not some direct marketing scam where you can now buy a magic COVID-19 package and send it out and somehow want money to come. It takes you to genuinely know your people and say things from that understanding. So yes, you have to care. There's no cheating about that. And you have to know your people. And there's no cheating in that approach. The good news is if you have your act together, you can do this under 7 weeks. That is for a team as 30 copywriters. You can make it happen. And if you have less than that, you can definitely make it happen. So make it happen for your people. Now, this is a Canadian animal charity. We ask exactly the 2 questions. And you see the words here: caring, loving, fun, loyal, kind. Loving, caring, kind, helpful. They're almost identical words. There's no difference. They're different words. So if you know your people use different words to describe themselves, you have to talk to them. But you don't talk to them because you want their money. You talk to them because that's who they are. They are kind, loving, loyal, kind people who are now strapped in their houses, who don't know what the future will bring. You go in with them and share whatever you can share with them to make them feel good about that caring, kind, loving, loyal person that they have always been, and they have always been for you. Other charities will have other adjectives. Almost every charities that we tested have their unique set of words that they use. So if you have any information whatsoever on the words that your donors use to describe themselves, use them now. If you have nothing whatsoever, I honestly would recommend do a very, very, very short survey with COVID-19 information in it, so that you get to know in this time how you can best care for them. The intention is you want to care for them. You want to care.
Jim, we had a question. What other questions were in the survey?
There are 5 other questions in the survey, but we wouldn't tell you what those 5 questions are because we always select them based on the communications of the charities themselves. We never recommend charities use exactly the same set of questions because it needs to be genuine, it needs to be authentic, it needs to be tailored to your cause. So it will have to be cause specific. And with this organization, we selected the other 5 questions for them so that they can tell a story of how they can make sense of the way that these words lead to giving.
And then we had another question. Giles asked, how much damage will we do to our relationships if we don't follow your guidance? And then he says, I will need this answer to use on my boss.
You don't send out not even a thank you. The first experiment showed that you would lose the 65% increase you could have had otherwise. You don't use these words on your communication. I mean, I'll show you some examples on amnesty. I mean, you listen to them, you use them, you create a campaign around them. You change your communications very easily from can to are. And when we do that with the right adjectives, you see 20% increase, 14% increase, depending on which set of adjective you use. I mean, so 2 studies together, you tell your boss, well, according to this study, you lose 65% of income. According to this study, you lose about 20% of income on new donors and about 14% of income on existing donors. So that's what I would say. Are you going to go bankrupt? I can only tell you about the increase because we have not suppressed giving so far.
So if you were going to, people taking away from this 45 minutes that we're able to share with them today, if you were kind of going to give them some advice about what they can do today.
Thank them.
Just thank them. Yeah.
Thank your people. Thank your people in the best possible way that you can think about. Thank them for everything they have done in the past for you. Thank them for how grateful you are that they're still with you. Thank them for them showing any interest whatsoever in the past now to you ever. Thank them. I mean, if nothing else, when people are alone, they need to feel someone else out there is still remembering them.
Yeah, you know, one of the other people in the Scotland program was the great copywriter Tom Ahern, and he shared something with us. It's called BOY language. Because of you, this is what's possible. And I thought that was so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, it almost doesn't matter whether our charities can survive through the crisis or not. We are here today because they have supported up to this point. That's the best, absolute best you can do.
Very good.
I mean, that's the attitude that you need to have when you send these messages out. With Iowa Public Television, again, these are sustaining givers. They have given on average 16 times, 3 groups. One group, they were not getting the thank you letter. One group, they are getting this left thank you letter focused on the CEO. The other thank you letter focused on the donor themselves. And again, all these things are freely downloadable. You can just use the copy. And the difference you see there is the letter, this difference here for people who have only given 1 gift in the past, this difference is not statistically different. So you're not suppressing giving. These are people who give an average number of 16 gifts. Again, these differences are not statistically significant. You're not suppressing giving. But for the people who have given anywhere more than 16 gifts, look at the uplift on the amount that you generate. So again, this is not a make and break. This is, can you have more? Can you build relationships? So if you can't afford to segment, you can only send 1 thank you out, then thank people for their actions. Thank people for everything that they have done for you up to today. Thank them in the specific impact that they have made. And if you can separate people from the more loyal, meaning giving higher than average number of gifts to you, from those who are less loyal, meaning people who give less than average to you, then separate them out and then use the relationship-based approach and the donor-centered approach to thank them for who they are. These approaches and these letters are all spelled out for you in that report. But what this information is telling you is thank you is worth it.
Yeah, we got a question from Maria. She said, when you say the things are downloadable, where do I find the downloads? Do you want to let them know?
Yeah, you just go to our website at the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy, and go to the reports. Under reports is how to say thank you. And to be honest, I can, I can just send you the link if Otis, you want to forward it after. I found this on the web. Oh gosh. If you want to send it, share with people afterwards, that's also fine. Yeah, but if there's one thing I would say is to thank people now. Yeah.
We'll also share out the Institute for Sustainable Philanthropy link when we share the recording tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. And then do it right, do it fast, do it genuinely and authentically for as long as the virus lasts. And to be honest, our data says money will follow. Our data says good feelings will follow. Our data says the money and the good feeling will not dry up, even in peacetime. And just imagine what is going to happen when you do it in wartime for them. But look at the key words. It's genuinely and authentically, because feelings seep through in your writings. Whether you want to hide it or not, it's going to come out. Are you sending them thank yous when you're in financial difficulty, or are you sending them thank yous even when your renews are coming strong, your upgrades are coming strong, and everything is going well? You thank them anyway. It is not just for, oh, we don't have money. It's even the best of the best, the strongest performing programs thank people more during the crisis time. How often did we manage to thank people? How long did their good feeling last? This is Goodwill, Washington, DC. They send these 3 conditions of emails to their shoppers, repeated shoppers. In condition 1 is thank you. We know that you're used to getting emails about sales and retail events from Goodwill, but this email is meant to just share our thanks. Thank you for every dollar you spend. Thank you for making round-up donations whenever possible. By shopping at Goodwill, you do these great things for Shantae, and she could not have done it without you. Thank you. And it was a big beaming smile of Shantae in that email. In condition 2, you tell people more about why they're responsible for that difference. Thanks to you, Shantae has a new career in hospitality. But more than that, thanks to you, Shantae has a new chance. You have given Shantae a chance to support herself, a chance to feel proud, and a chance to the best version of herself that she can be. She couldn't have done it without you. And the only difference to condition 3 is you also mention the thousands and the thousands here. So now, which condition do you think will raise more money? I'll tell you the frequency that we used these messages, okay? These are emails. We sent them out once a month. So month 1 is Shantae, month 2 is somebody else, month 3 is somebody else again. So 3 emails in 3 consecutive months, and we waited for 1 more month. In those 4 months, we tracked how much people spend shopping in Goodwill. Okay, not even giving money, shopping in Goodwill. What did we find? 5.8% higher purchase rate and 1.37 per person increase in purchase amount. So in the context of Shantae, where it is about career services, it's not too emotionally intense. Adding thousands to it is not a smart thing to do. Thank them for the one concrete difference that people can make and have made and made in the past to the people that they chose to care about. And this email we send out once a month for 3 months, and that's people's actual behavior during that time period. And what is more important than how much people buy things is 6 weeks after our last thank you email, we send out a survey and ask how good people feel about their association and about shopping with Goodwill. This pathetic little red bar down here is called 0. And that means no association whatsoever. There's no association between how many people shopped in Goodwill and how good they feel in anything. This is before they get a thank you. Okay, now the big, enormous, great big bars right next to them, they're black. This is how good people feel about shopping in Goodwill after they get a thank you. Yes, 1.3 and 2% are not exactly the highest numbers, but they are from zero, okay? That's an infinite amount of increase in how good people feel. And remember, this is not even giving. This is shopping. It's 3 emails in 3 months. And this is how good people feel about shopping. All right, I hope the data can convince your boss that 3 emails is not that much to ask that we do now for our donors. Thank them for the difference that they have made. If for nothing else, they deserve it in this crisis to feel good about themselves, about something out there.
Hey Jen, we had a question. It says, does it help or hurt to include details about the mission in the thank you? And let me, as your student of 3 days, try to answer that. You know, it really depends on how you frame it. If you frame it, we did this, we did that, we did this, we did that, that's not a good way to go. But if you frame it, the BOY, because of you, kids got glasses. Because of you, kids got backpacks for school. Because of you, kids got food. Frame the mission through the donor. That's what you're saying, yes?
Absolutely. And the genuineness and the authenticity comes in where you don't over thank them, right? You don't thank for people who have given you once for $10 that they have changed millions of lives, that they have made the mission become true. You thank them for one person like Shantae, from donations for other donors like you. So it's all believable, it's all genuine, it's all authentic.
Great.
Speak from your heart, don't calculate. So the question is, are you ready to fight for your donors, your organization, and those who need you? I think I'm just gonna end there and take any questions that people might have in terms of how to implement this.
Perfect.
I will skip to and thank you for being so kind and caring, to attending the webinar, to think about how to care for your donors over the crisis. And this wording is very particular. I didn't thank you for your kind attendance. I thank you for being so kind and caring, because you cared enough that you would come to a webinar that is titled, How Care for Your Donors and Your Fundraisers and Your People. So yeah, we'll take questions.
Giles asks, this seems so straightforward, but is it?
Thank people is just that straightforward. Getting the 7 questions exactly right take me 25 years.
So you can make a significant difference with little changes.
Absolutely.
But in order to really hit it out of the park, it takes more, yes?
Yeah, I mean, the most difficult part of this whole process is to text analyze all the words that come back. Because when they first come back, there would be amalgam of different types of identities that people hold. And it takes psychological theories to help you decipher what the identities are. But like you saw from the National Boat Institute, they have managed to do it in under 7 weeks. That's a national organization. They get themselves together, they get the surveys out, they have a research department, disseminate information, they have their own training facilities to train their 30 copywriters. Within like a few weeks, their website is different, their print material is different, their communication is different. And they didn't even start this because they needed money. They started it because they like the fact that we genuinely care about their donors. And like I said, we were not hired back by them to say, oh, now how can you get us more money? No, we were hired to help them know their donors. That's our job. And that is the beginning and the end of our job. And we love it. We just absolutely love it.
Okay, a couple more questions. Considering the time, do you recommend the crisis, I assume, do you recommend an electronic thank you or a handwritten note?
Both, because this is not going to go away.
Possible. Courtney asks, I'm hearing two things, survey for the 2 questions and thank people. Are you suggesting we have to survey first before we can begin this thank you process? Could benefit from clarification on prioritizing. Okay.
Thank you first.
Thank you.
Need to do the survey immediately if you are confident with your thank you writing already. Now, survey, don't do it with just 2 questions. I would recommend a minimum of 7 to make the results meaningful and to make the survey process themselves enjoyable. But what is enjoyable for each organization is different. So I can't tell you, use this for your organization. I mean, we had to audit, for example, Greenpeace communication material. They have to send us 30 to 50 communications before we know what is the best 7 questions that they can ask. So no, don't go out with just 2 questions. They alone will not make the process of filling out surveys enjoyable.
Blake asks, can we get some examples of potential survey questions?
The survey questions that we definitely would include good feeling questions. Actually, let me just let me show you, let me stop sharing and I'll show you a set of 3 questions that we recommend, like we tested in the past in surveys that you can use. They are again in our how to say thank you report, those 3 questions, but you can see them here. I will find the slide and then I will share, okay? Just give me a moment.
Jen, while you're doing that, just want to remind everybody that we're going to be sharing the video of this webinar as well as the PowerPoint deck with you after we're done here. It'll take probably a few hours for that to happen, but we'll certainly be sharing it. We can also include a link to the thank you video that we played for you from the UK Sea Rescue folks.
Yeah. Okay, so I will put this on full screen and then share. Can you see this screen now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is a Brady campaign experiment that we did where people go to care2.com to sign a petition. And immediately after they sign a petition, this is before they even make their first financial contribution, they would receive a thank you letter with all the great thank yous that you can possibly think of. Thank you this, thank you this, thank you this, thank you that. And then they're asked to take a third survey. And the only difference in that experiment was the order in which the questions are asked. These questions are all exactly the same that you can find from our report. And what we found is that the order in which you ask these questions make a difference. If you ask how good people feel, they feel 57, 54, 68, and 57% better than if you ask what's important for you. But these are the questions that you can use. The questions you ask them is, how did signing a petition, giving money, attending our events, fundraising for us make you feel? And then you say, yes, giving to this make me feel I can voice my beliefs. Giving to this make me I can do things that others can't. Giving to this make me feel more strongly connected to those who need protection from gun violence, and giving to these make me feel I can make a meaningful difference. So these questions are taken out of the questions that we call competence relatedness and autonomy. These are fundamental human needs that for anybody, as long as they're human, they feel these things. So if you can make them feel that giving can make them feel these things, then that reinforces their sense of well-being. But I would not recommend asking these questions during this wartime about how giving make you feel. In the surveys that we now design for people, we ask how doing something that we recommend that they do that's specifically designed for that organization for the crisis would make them feel. So this is not to be used where you say, oh, giving in the past, how does that make you feel? Because then they would just think you're an ass, right? But if you...
Jen, we've just got two more minutes, so I just want to get a couple more questions in. And
Okay.
let me just also say, if you want further information about how to work with Jen's organization, Turnkey and the Institute are working hand in glove, so you can contact us or you can contact Jen, either one. We got a question. I'm a peer-to-peer professional. Will all this work with the same on peer-to-peer fundraisers as opposed to donors? The answer is an unqualified yes. It is.
Absolutely. All these things have tested, not by us, by psychologists on all human behavior.
And we're going to take one final. Our organization utilizes a mixture of email, social media, phone call messaging. Would you recommend any changes when using this messaging during a phone call? Did you hear that one, Jen? No. Okay.
Yes. No, during the phone call, if your data capturing facility allows it, it is better to use open-ended questions than closed form questions, because that allows people to be more expressive of their feelings and their thoughts. But people, these things are double-edged swords. Don't use them lightly. Use them with genuine concerns for your donors, and to think about how it will make them feel in this crisis time.
And we got one more that I find different departments seem to have different strategies. What is your experience in help align all departments in supporting one communication strategy? That's something that Turnkey does for many organizations. And it is a constant struggle with the silos, as we say. So it's got to be part of your bigger strategic plan, I believe.
Yeah, and one of the strengths that allowed this C organization to marshal everything together in 7 weeks and put 30 copywriters all behind it is because they found the one thing that unite them all together. You know, it's not like they elevated donors above volunteers, above crew members, above anybody else. It's like, that's what we're about. We're in this to save people. So that unifying proposition that you have to identify through this process.
Absolutely. Jen, thank you so much. We are out of time. Kelly, I'll let you wrap up. I think Kelly's muted. She's talking, but she's muted. I think Kelly's still muted, and I think that we're probably done. So we'll be sending out the recording, a link to the recording, a link to Jen's organization, a link to the Sea Rescue organization tomorrow. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Jen, this has been terrific. We very much appreciate you taking the time, and take care over there, all right?